Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Salesforce Gurus. This is the second episode on Apex Trigger in Salesforce. There are a couple of scenarios that we are going to discuss about the Salesforce Trigger, where we're going to use the Salesforce Trigger, and what are the implication of the Salesforce Trigger in Salesforce different contexts. So without delaying, let's jump into the scenario that we're going to talk about in this episode. Okay, so the scenario that we are going to resolve out here is writing a trigger to stop the user from adding duplicate account in the records. So before writing a trigger, there are a couple of things we should keep in mind. The first thing is what type of trigger we are writing. So we need to specify the type of trigger because there are two types of trigger I discussed in the first tutorial of the Salesforce Apex Trigger. There are before and after triggers. Before trigger is written to write the validation or to automate any sort of activities that takes care of the things, the data, before processing that into the Salesforce ecosystem. So the next one is after trigger. After trigger performs a couple of actions that should happen after inserting the data. And the second thing you need to keep in mind is trigger context. And what context of trigger? Is this before insert, or is this before now after insert, or is this before delete, or if that is after delete? Or there are a couple of the trigger contexts we already discussed in the first class. That thing we need to specify before writing a trigger. And third thing is which object. And obviously, trigger is written in an object, specific object, to automate the things. So these three things should be taken into consideration before writing any sort of triggers. So they are the answer for this trigger. We're going to write the before trigger because it has to happen. There should be a validation process before inserting the record in the account, because it is asking us to stop the user from adding a duplicate account into the records. That means that record should be already existing into the account object. That's the reason why it's stopping user from inserting another same sort of record. So trigger is before trigger, and the trigger context is before insert context, and the object which we're writing is an account. That's so obvious. Okay, so without delaying, let's go to the Salesforce developer org and we write the code. Here's my org, and as usual, the navigation is go to this gear icon, which is a setting gear. Click on that. You'll be taken to the developer console. Click on the developer console. Wait for a couple of moments. It is still buffering. Sometimes it takes time. So let's just cancel that out and reopen it. Oh, it's just opened up. Okay. So here we are. That's the old trigger we wrote yesterday. I'm just going to delete it, remove it. Not deleting. Let's just remove that one. Okay. The second step is I'm going to click on a file, drop down, go to the new, then click on Apex Trigger. So we need to specify the name. Let me specify the name. Let's write scenario 2. And the object is account. Hit submit. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so the trigger we're writing is an account, and the type of trigger is before insert. Our trigger type is before insert, so we don't need to specify anything here. But if we have to do before update also, then we need to specify here like before update. Our concern is writing a trigger before insert, so let's not just confuse it. I'm just removing that part. Now go down and specify the trigger context. Usually while writing trigger, this is not a must, but I do specify the trigger context. That is, if trigger is before insert, and if the trigger is before, then only this trigger should fire. Now, what I'm going to do is for stopping the user from inserting any duplicate records, I need to put all the account records which are newly being inserted. Then I need to check that if there's any username existing, you can check either phone number or anything else, but I'm going to check on the basis of the user account name. And if the account name is found duplicate, or if any account name is already existing there, then I'm going to stop user from adding any other account names or any further additional accounts. So for that, I'm going to write a for loop, this extended for loop. Now, account object, I'm going to pull the records from and trigger.new. So this will put all the records that we're trying to insert in the account object. Now, what you have to do is there's a trigger. This ACC, the trigger context, the accounts instance that carries all the list of accounts that you're trying to insert. Either you're doing bulkification or either you're inserting a single record. So now we have ACC that carries all the latest account records. Now what you have to do is we need to write a SQL query here from the account. I want to list out all the account records, all the list of accounts from the given account name. Let's just give an instance name. Let's take account. So I'm just fetching ID and name from the accounts. We don't need all the account records. So I'm going to add wait clause where the name is that equals to ACC is the instance name that we're using there. What do you want to pull? The name. So we have the account name. We are pulling all the account records, the latest account records, ID and name from the account, where the name is equals to acc.name. That means the recently inserted name that is coming from here. Okay. So let's just add the condition. Now we have the account list of accounts or account, if that's a single. So we have the account name, and we're gonna test if that list is not empty. I mean the null point checker. And let's take count dot size. If the size of the accounts, the list is greater than 0, then only test the condition. Otherwise, it stops testing. So if the account is list of accounts that size is greater than 0, that means if something is already existing there, if the account name is already existing there, then we should stop them from inserting the record. So account.name.add error message. I'm just adding a simple error message on that. Record already exists. For the clarification, let's just add account.name. I mean, user should be clear on what account name is already existing. So I'm just giving that name. Let's save it. Okay, it's before. Here's a mistake. Now we have saved the trigger. And for testing, let's go and test it. Let me pull up the account. So still buffering. Okay. Yeah, finally, we have the list of accounts here. Let's just try one. Let me try the simple account name. All accounts. Let's say this is the account name. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that account name and try to insert that, because that's the only thing. I mean, it is going to test it's going to check only the account name. If the account name is matching, then it should throw the error message. Now, let's create a new account. Let's give that account name. Let's say it's a hot record, hot rating. Hit save. Here's the message. Cannot insert the record. So this is how it works. Let's try one more. Let's say another record, that is Burlington Textile Corporation. Let's try that. Let me copy it and try to create the record. Rating, I said warm. Try to hit save. Cannot insert the record. Okay, guys, this is how it works. And this is how the trigger works. In this trigger, we discussed about the before trigger, where we are stopping user, we are preventing user from giving the duplicate records, inserting the duplicate records on the account records. So that's one of the example of the triggers. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video, guys. Thank you.